Greetings and welcome to the Wealth Mindset. I am your host, JD Garnier, and you are listening to KKNOK 75 AM or 107.1 FM radio in New Orleans, or you're tuned into the Wealth Mindset Podcast. I hope you're having a productive week in your wealth creation journey, and as always, my goal is simple: to help you walk in wealth, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. To take the things that God has already given you and use those to create a life of purpose, so that wealth is more than just what you acquire. Wealth is who you become. You are the wealth. It's not your real estate. It's not your investments. It's not your business. You are the wealth. And before you have any of those things, you have a unique and specific set of talents, abilities, gifts, ideas, habits, disciplines, and inclinations that form the basis of everything that you do in this world. And once you tap into that, you start your wealth creation journey. So again, you are the wealth. Listen, first things first, please follow me on all social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, under JD Garnier or Garnier JD. Also, you can purchase my books, How to Sell When Your Clients Don't Look Like You, and The Art of Diversity Selling, on my website, www.jdgarnier.com. Like, subscribe, share, and follow me for updates. I appreciate your support. Now, I talk a lot about the racial wealth gap and the statistics that are involved in that. At this point, I think they're widely known, right? The average black family has a net worth of less than $20,000. The average white family has a net worth of over $120,000. The average black family has a average income of less than $30,000. The average white family has a median income of over $87,000. And I can go on and on and on about statistics that display how wide the racial wealth gap is, right? How much disparity there is between resources, between groups of people. And I don't think that there's any dispute about the reasons for that, right? We can all point back to the historical reasons for that. But the fact of the matter is, it is what it is. And, a lot of economists, a lot of people who study this stuff feel like it is going to take over 200 years for us to close that gap. But of all of those statistics and all of those numbers, one of the stats that is the most disturbing to me is the stats about our children. And according to the Department of Education study, I think it's the National Council on Education, but it's public information at this point. 85% of our young boys and girls cannot read or do math at a sufficient level. 85% of our young children cannot do math or read at a sufficient level. And the reason why that stat is so disturbing to me is because, right, all of this fight for equality, all of this fight for justice, all of this fight for economics, right? To me, if our children cannot read or write or do math at a basic level, everything that we are doing for them is pointless. If we are not preparing our children for the future that we are fighting for, then what is the meaning of all of this? Because all of the economic opportunity that is out there will not be accessible to them if they cannot do basic functions, if they cannot read and comprehend at a basic level, if they cannot do math at a basic level, then they are not even going to be able to benefit from all of the things that we're trying to do to set the foundation for the next generation. And, it takes me back to the name of my company, which is called Attacking the Root. And that name came from a sermon that I heard my uncle preach when I was a little kid. And he said that if you want to change the direction and growth of a tree, you don't attack the leaves, you don't manipulate or change the branches. You have to attack it at the roots. You have to change and manipulate and develop the roots to change the health and the growth of that tree. And if you, at the same time, if you want to destroy that tree, you don't destroy it at the branches. You don't destroy it at the leaves. You destroy it at the roots. And 85% illiteracy and inability to do basic functions shows me that our community and our culture is being destroyed at the roots. Because if our children don't have the basics that they need, they are not going to be prepared for the world. And I tell my kids all the time that life is math. Life is math. Every single day of your life, you are making calculations to advance your life forward. Every single day of your life, you have to solve mathematical problems. You have to do mathematical calculations in your mind to be able to advance your life forward. And so I tell my children, the main things that you have to know is basic math and basic reading. Because if you know math, now you know how to solve problems. Because problems are going to continuously arise in your life, and you're going to have to weigh and calculate the costs and the benefit before you solve those problems. And so math allows you to do that. And once you know how to read, nobody can withhold information from you. If you want to know something, if you need to know something, all you have to do is read the information from yourself. And if you can do those basic things, nothing in this world can stop you. And so I'm a firm believer that life is math. We are constantly making calculations in our mind about our life. Think about what I'm saying, right? As an adult, you have to think about and understand. Before you buy a house, you have to understand your mortgage, right? You have to understand interest rates. You have to understand taxes. If you work on a corporate job, you have to be able to understand your retirement and your financial benefits, right? You have to constantly be calculating the costs and the benefits of life to advance your life forward. If you can't do that, unfortunately, a lot of times you're going to find yourself in a hole. You're going to find yourself in a deficit. And so a fundamental part of success is just understanding these basic things. Life is math. Every single decision that you make throughout the day is a calculation. From what time you wake up in the morning to what time you have to be at work to what you're going to do when you get to work, you're constantly calculating and putting together numbers, data, and statistics to advance your life forward. So if you can't do basic calculations or you don't understand basic math, it's going to be hard for you to succeed in life. You're going to have a difficult time advancing because you're not weighing all of the options. You're not looking at all of the different variables. And so life is math. And we have to understand that. And if we understand that, then we also understand that we have to prioritize the education of our children. We have to prioritize advancing them and giving them the foundational and fundamental things that they need to succeed in the world. Because otherwise, what are we doing this for? What are we doing it for? What are we doing it for? I don't think people realize how fast this world is changing. I don't think people realize how rapid technology is changing the way that we're going to be living. In 5 years, the world is going to look totally different. In 10 years, we can't even imagine what things are going to be like. The stuff is already out there. We just have not adopted it yet. But if we're not arming our children with the basic fundamentals that they need, they're not going to be able to keep up. They're not going to be able to keep up. How do we create a new generation of business owners? How do we create a new generation of talent? How do we create a new generation of wealth creators when our children are struggling with the basic fundamentals? Now, I know it's a whole lot of talk and controversy about the Department of Education and whether that should stay around or not. But regardless of your opinions on that, the fact is they have not done their job. And secondly, I don't think it's their job. I think it is our job as parents, as leaders in the community, to make certain that our children have the basics that they need. Because life is math. Life is structured in a way that is so complex and complicated and convoluted that if you cannot understand the basics, you're not going to be able to keep up. If you can't understand basic numbers, if you can't understand interest rates, if you can't understand a surplus, if you can't understand budgeting, if you can't understand taxes, all of these things that are necessary to advance, if you can't understand those things, it don't matter if you get $1 million. You're not going to keep it. It's going to be gone like that. Because life is math. And every decision that you make is a mathematical calculation of how to advance you forward. Every decision, except for one. The only decision that is not a mathematical decision in your life, the only decision that does not require numbers, data, and statistics, the only decision that does not require you to have a deep understanding of math and calculations is an emotional decision. When we make emotional decisions, it don't have anything to do with logic. It doesn't have anything to do with rationale. It has nothing to do with numbers. When we make emotional decisions, most times those decisions cost us. When we make emotional decisions, we make those decisions irrespective of the numbers, irrespective of whether or not they're going to help us out. We act on impulse. And unfortunately, as a community, as a culture, we have been trained to act on emotional decisions. In almost every instance, those decisions cost. And so the first lesson when it comes to understanding the impact of math in life is that you should never make emotional decisions. Emotional decisions will cost you. Now, secondly, on top of that, if life is math and if life requires calculations and understanding, then I think that our ultimate goal should be to take advantage of the numbers. How do we do that? How do we take advantage of the numbers? Well, there is this wonderful and excellent principle called compound interest. Compound interest means to add on or to build up. When it comes to math, compound interest means that you earn interest not only on the amount of money that you start with, but you earn interest on top of the interest that you earn. And eventually, over time, it starts to compound in a way that extrapolates the numbers. And so if you know basic math, you understand how percentages work. And this is the reason why investing is so compelling, because it allows you to take advantage of compound interest. If you save $10,000 a year and you just put it in a savings account and you are earning nothing on that money, in 10 years, you're going to have $100,000. Congratulations, you saved that money. But if you earn interest on that money and it compounds annually, that same savings of $100,000 can double, can triple over that time span, just depending on the rate of return that you get, without you having to do anything. Compound interest is the way that we take advantage of the numbers and the way that we take advantage of life. We have to take advantage of compounding. In order to do that, you have to be willing to take a risk. You have to be willing to invest. You have to be willing to allow things to grow. Unfortunately, we have this short-term mindset where we don't want to wait for that. We have this short-term mindset where we want everything now and we don't take advantage of compound interest. But I'm telling you, it's the only way that we can take advantage of the numbers. It's the only way that we can put the numbers in our favor. If life is math, then we have to position ourselves in a way that is going to put the numbers in our favor. And the only way we can do that is to not make emotional decisions, especially when it comes to our finances. And secondly, take advantage of compound interest. Earn something on your capital. Earn something on your money. Allow it to compound. Think about your life 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And just let it grow. The last thing to grow on a tree is the fruit. When you plant a seed, you don't have any evidence of success. You don't have any evidence of production. You just planted the seed. And you have to put all of the work on the front end with no evidence. You have to water it. You have to nurture it. You have to cultivate it. And you're not getting any benefit from it. And in fact, the seed grows down before it actually grows up. And so you don't even see that your hard work is working, but you cultivating it, you're nurturing it, you're watering it, you're doing everything you can to develop that seed, and you're not getting any benefit from it. And then eventually the seed starts to grow. It's growing slowly, but it starts to grow. Because of your hard work, because of your nurturing, because of your development. But you still don't see any benefits, but it's growing. And then eventually, that seed breaks ground and it sees the sunlight. And now you have help, because not only are you watering it and nurturing it and cultivating it, but now it sees the sun. Now that seed sees what's possible. Now it's growing in the direction of the sun. Now the sun is helping you to develop that seed. Now you have some assistance, but you still have to put the work in. You still have to develop it and cultivate it and nurture it and water it. And you're still not seeing any benefit from it. And then eventually that seed starts to grow into a tree, and it spreads branches and it grows leaves, and you're seeing all of this development and you're seeing what's possible, and it is expanding itself. And now you don't have to work as much. It's growing on its own. It's using the soil. It's using the water from the rain. It's using the sun to be able to grow on its own. You just have to manage it. You have to just make sure that it's in the right position. And it's developing and it's growing on its own. But you still don't see any benefit from it. And then one day, that tree produces fruit. And once it produces fruit, that fruit can feed you and your family forever. But you never get to that point if you stop before it pierces the ground. You never get to that point if you stop before it starts to develop itself. And we have this microwave mentality where we're thinking short term. But once that seed grows into a tree and produces fruit, that fruit can feed you and your family forever. That is how you have to think about your life. That is how you have to think about your talents, your abilities, and your gifts. If you quitting when it's just a seed, it's going to wither away and die. If you quit just when it pierces the ground and expecting that it's going to grow on its own, nothing is going to happen. If you stop working in your business 6 months or a year down the line, you're not going to see any success. If you quit at your profession before you actually develop yourself and go through something, you're not going to see any success. You got to put the work in. on the front end without any benefit. You don't get any benefit from that tree growing until it develops fruit. But if you're not willing to wait for the fruit, then it's all a waste. All of your hard work, everything you put in is a waste because you left before it was too early. You did not allow it to compound. And in order for us to be successful in life, we have to be willing to compound ourselves, to grow ourselves, to develop ourselves, to double down on the things that God has called us to do and put the work in on the front. And once you start to develop fruit, you can feed you and your family forever. Wealth mindset.